Greetings! Greetings, Perl citizens! It is I, your fearless leader, Will the Chill. Some of you may know me by my legal name, Will Braswell, and we are here today for another exciting episode, a very exciting episode of the Perl Town Hall. Joining me today are my two brilliantly insightful special co-host guests. We have with us Dean Hampstead and Tommy Butler. Say hi, guys.
How's everyone doing?
Okay. We have somebody's dog that is alerting us to the presence of an outsider. Hopefully it's not mine. Okay, well, on today's town hall, this is a special edition for day one of the Perl Conference. In fact, it is the Perl Conference in the cloud. In fact, it is the Perl and Raku Conference in the cloud, but we'll just leave that part off for now. We're here to talk about the exciting Perl news from today. And I think that we all kind of know what the most exciting Perl news is. And I'll go ahead and come out and say it immediately. We have finally, after 26 or so long years, Perl version 7.0. Woo! So yes, we should all be very excited that we finally get to have a new major version for Perl. And each of us can give our take on that. I will also say that I attended 6 sessions today, and so I do have all kinds of positive ideas and feedback about all of those. But I don't want to be the microphone hog, so let's turn it over to Brother Dean, Mr. Dean, Dean the Machine.
Thanks, Will. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
Let me know if you can't. Yep, that's fine. So I am in the garage. This has been my COVID office here in California. But yeah, big day today, obviously. A bit of a surprise for people who weren't in the know, which was everybody, in terms of obviously an announcement to the way that Perl is versioned changing. So now we're going to start seeing some major versions rather than just minor versions. I saw a lot of positive vibes on that. I don't know about you guys. Good positive vibes on the Facebook group, positive vibes in the Slack channels for the conference. Lots of feedback on Y Combinator and Twitter, if you guys were looking out for that as well. Initially, there was a lot of hate, but what do you expect? You say Perl and all the people come out and copy and paste their usual criticisms, but there was a lot of good, thoughtful feedback once people had a chance to kind of read it and digest it. And that's to be expected. People who are interested would actually listen and read and hear and then think about it, and rather than just copying and pasting another boilerplate criticism of Perl. So I think that definitely dominated the day. For people who didn't, people who haven't heard Sawyer's, or viewed rather Sawyer's keynote, which was the first talk of the day, I definitely recommend you jump on YouTube and take a look at it. Quite an interesting talk. I thought it started a little bit slowly. No offense at all. But no offense intended that it started a bit slowly, but it did, and it got quite interesting by about the 15 to 20 minute mark. And there's a lot of interesting information there. I find Sawyer, when he gives a talk, he's very well prepared. A lot of information, a lot of good slides, so he's put in a lot of prep. Obviously, it was quite interesting to hear the comparison of the release schedule pre-Perl 5. Bit of history there for everybody. And how that moved a lot more quickly, and then somehow we got stuck in the 5 generation as we waited for Perl 6 to try and solve every problem under the sun. So obviously we're kind of back to that original model, which is much closer to other languages. So I'll hand over to Tommy.
Thank you. Let me first say I'm super excited about anything Perl. I absolutely love Perl, and hearing that we're going to have a new version after some time, and knowing the people that have labored on our behalf in creating Raku, I have mixed feelings about it. I have I have feelings about it that my heart goes out to everybody who's been involved in the Perl 6, now Raku effort. And I want y'all to know I'm grateful for the things that you've done for the community and for that language. And I'm excited now because it feels like we're in a position we weren't in before, where we have, well, I'm kind of struggling to find the words. I'm going to say we're in a position now where we can continue both efforts in tandem, where everybody who's not in the echo chamber knows very clearly, okay, this is going to be the direction, and Perl is the Perl that people think about, who aren't daily users of the language, and the Perl that we're talking about is probably the Perl that you use for your job, like me. So I've said in other comments on the internet today that I am excited about it because it means that we're going to have resources and time devoted to the development of the language that I have a vested interest in. I'm connected to it. I'm connected to it because I've done a lot of development in it over the last, I'm going to say 20 years. And I've done a lot of that professionally. It's been the means that I've used in many cases to provide for my family. And so I do have a real vested interest in its continued development. I'm very excited to hear about this. I will say that I've read a whole one blog article about that because today I spent most of the day stuck in the in the home office working. I didn't get the privilege of attending, virtually speaking, the conference in the cloud, and so I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a backseat to our other hosts in most of the commentary because I need to be able to watch that content before I can really offer an opinion on it. But I will say I'm super excited about this. I think that it's going to be good for Perl, and despite the fact that I know that I'm going to have to rewrite a little bit of code, I'm very excited.
Awesome, thank you, Tommy. And I think that Deem had to drop off because his dog was wanting his attention there, but we'll see if he's able to log back in. But meanwhile, I was just going to give my own opinion. Oh, look, could this be the one, the only? Dean is back. Okay, great. Well, Tommy just finished, and I was going to give my 7.5 cents about Perl 7. For those of you who are not yet aware, basically what the plan is to take Perl 5.32 and just rename it as Perl 7 with a few additional default settings, such as use strict and use warnings will automatically be turned on in Perl for new users. So they'll just they won't have to have all this boilerplate code that we've been carrying as quote unquote technical debt for the last umpteen years. So this is a good thing in my opinion, and there's been a number of very positive write-ups about this that Dean and others have been gracious enough to share to the Facebook group, and we've had some chatting about this in our own group as well, and all over the interwebs, as they say. But my opinion about this is that from a technical standpoint, it's very important because it allows us to make breaking changes, and we need that to move forward with the language. I'm very glad that we finally have broken out of the cycle of being stuck with a major version because of the whole Raku incident, or saga, or epic, or whatever you want to call it, an epic saga incident. But we now have finally been able to move on, and it didn't take long. As soon as Raku got renamed, then we will be able to do our own thing finally once again. And I'm under the impression that we will have a new major version every year, since we've had a new minor version every year for the past 6 years at least. My take from a community standpoint on this is that it's going to be really good for morale. We've had, really been struggling with morale in some parts of the community because of job struggles, because of funding struggles, because of being stuck behind what was perceived as Perl 6 as a dead end or a vaporware and so forth. And now that we've broken out of that, and we've got, like one of the programmers, Robert R, was mentioning today on the group, he can finally make his own new blog posts and write-ups and articles and so forth and reference Perl version 7, and that makes his articles look more up to date. And in fact, I just had a client asking me 2 days ago, well, isn't Perl 5 just in maintenance mode now, and Perl 6 is the real thing, and so forth? And I said, no, there is no such thing as Perl 6 anymore, and we're going to have a new major version. I thought it was going to be 32, I will admit. If I had to bet money, I was probably going to bet on 32, but I'm very happy with 7. I would have been happy with 11. I would have been happy with 7 or anything greater than 6, essentially. And so I was telling my dear Bennie, my wife, that this was the biggest announcement since Perl 6 being renamed became official, and that was the biggest announcement in Perl in decades. So this is pretty much the biggest thing that's happened in over 25 years, 26 years. Since Perl 5 came out, this is the most important and perhaps one of the few only real important things that has happened from a community standpoint that we're finally able to move on. But anyway, I don't want to say too much more about this other than the fact that I'm extremely excited. I definitely share that enthusiasm that we heard from Tommy before. And so Tommy had mentioned that he didn't have much more to say about other segments, but Dean, do you want to weigh in on any other segments or talks or presentations or lightning talks from today?
Yes, sure. So just looking through the schedule, anyone who's not aware of where it is, it's at perlconference.us, and you can find the schedule there. You can find tomorrow's schedule there as well if you're getting ready for tomorrow. So obviously, we started off with Sawyer, and the next talk that I jumped on was the using Perl to parse terabytes of mission-critical variable semi-structured data with 100% accuracy, with a big twist from Christopher Jack, who also seems to be a Australian, although based out of the UK. His talk talked about a problem that he had solved where they sifted through a lot of financial transactions and had to kind of reverse them, from what I understand, and they had to be done in a closed environment, like beyond PCI compliant type environment. So that was kind of interesting talk. From there, data logging with Perl for science. That was quite an interesting talk. Let me just see my notes on it. Yes. So this particular person, who I'm flicking between windows here, so I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but he's listed as Hauke D. So I apologize if that's not how it's pronounced. I'm trying my hardest. But his talk was about data logging.
That's Hauke Damfling.
Okay. I don't know how to pronounce that,
Also
so I apologize.
known as Hauke X. He created WebPerl.
Okay, so his talk, he works for an agency that looks at environmental factors, I guess, without going into heaps of details. He talks about it. Long story short is he's using Raspberry Pis with code that he's written in Perl to collect data, or data, as you'd say here in the United States. And that's very interesting, using Modulicious, and he's doing all sorts of data collection in the real world, not just like hypothetical data collection. So that's quite interesting for people who are into Raspberry Pis and this type of thing. Definitely check that out. Jim Bacon's talk, using Mu in Modulinos. He talks about how you can use Mu in Modulinos to make them a little bit nicer. I won't go into what Modulinos are, but very, very short version. It's when you can use a script as a module or vice versa, mainly for testing. Bennie's talk is the last one that I caught today, where she talked extensively about a conductor and use of an orchestra and use that as a metaphor for learning about management in an engineering setting. So that was very interesting, very thoughtful, very well researched from Bennie, and I guess a little bit outside of what people are kind of used to coming at a conference, but not in a way that's very foreign to people. It's just a interesting angle, and there were some thoughtful comments and questions on that as well. I think people understood what she was getting at, and it gave them something to walk away and have a think about. So that's what I had time for today, in amongst other things. Obviously, the Perl 7 announcement kind of was a big surprise and maybe overshadowed a lot of speakers a little bit.
Yes, I believe you're right, and that would be a hard act to follow, as they say. But I'll just give my last 5 minutes here as we're coming up to the end of our brief daily update today. I enjoyed several talks. I will say that I really enjoyed Bennie's talk about the skill transference from the music industry over to the essentially management or IT sort of thing. By the way, I think I accidentally froze up my own video. Sorry, everyone. At least you can see my thoughtful pose there. But I also did catch Hauke's talk on the data gathering. That was neat. He built a bunch of devices and put them in airplanes and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. The Kevin McGrail had a great talk on security type stuff, one of the lightning talks, and there were several other lightning talks as well. And then Bruce Gray had a nice talk about refactoring code and multidimensional data structures and regular expressions and so forth. Essentially everything I saw, I learned something. Probably the one that I learned the most from, it wasn't Bennie's. I'm sorry, Bennie. She's actually like pretending to read her book and ignore me right now, but I know that she's looking at me and rolling her eyes. But the one that I learned the most from was the web dev, the next generation, or web dev generation, whatever it was called. I think it had some vague references to Star Trek. There was an Undiscovered Country reference in there, but that was like sort of a history of web development and web application development over the past 20 years. And I definitely learned some stuff that I didn't know. It's funny to see all the gaps in one's own knowledge. Because, I didn't have to develop for IE8 during those 4 years, so I didn't keep up with what was going on there. So yeah, overall it was very interesting. The lightning talks were also very good. I caught most of them, and and even some of the commercials were interesting. So I'm looking forward to Bad Movie Night tomorrow night, hosted by David Adler. As always, it's sort of like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and so forth. And another full day of Perl talks tomorrow. It looks like most of the talks on day 3 are about Raku, but not all of them, so I will definitely be tuning in on day 3 as well. And if we can somehow pull it together, then we're planning to have some more videos and panel discussions, or maybe the 3 of us getting together again. We'll see who's available when, but we will have something for you guys on each of these 3 days of the Perl Conference. So with that, let's have final thoughts from Brother Tommy.
Thanks, Will. It wasn't a topic of today's conference, but the thing that's been rolling around in my mind about Perl and the Perl community lately has been direction. We saw the introduction of the Perl community roadmap from yourself on, I think it was it Reddit? A few months ago, and I know that the Perl conference and the Perl Foundation, they have their own goals as well. It's kind of going to be interesting to watch this play out as we strive to implement some of those lofty goals of the Perl roadmap. I'd like to hear, it's my intention to see if I can ask a question in the Birds of a Feather, to which I was invited, about this, about the focus of the Perl Foundation. I'd like to understand where they want to take Perl and how that dovetails with the Perl community roadmap. I'd like to see ways that we can try to bridge whatever gaps may exist and come together in some kind of consensual governance over Perl that best benefits everyone, everyone involved. I'm excited, and I just want to say, Will, I'm grateful for the efforts that you make personally on behalf of us in the community. I'm grateful for the work, the hard work of the Perl Foundation and everybody who's been volunteering their time for this conference. It's neat to see this unfold, and it's also beautiful to me to see that the community is still going strong and that the language is still going strong. Thanks, buddy. I've got my kids joining in today. They were interested, which is good because it's my hope that they're going to be the next generation of Perl mongers and Perl hackers. Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Ashley does. Ashley helped work the booth at the open source conference there in Irving. Was it in 2018, Will? But I will turn the microphone back over to Dean.
Thanks, Tommy. So just looking at tomorrow's schedule for Thursday, first off the bat is Perl 7 Q&A with SawyerX. So I guess if you're paid up and you're able to jump on the Slack channel, you'll be able to participate in that. Otherwise, you can just listen in on the YouTube channel, followed by several more Birds of Feathers. Looking through the schedule for myself, the ones that catch my attention without any particular regard one way or another. Further adventures in QA for the Perl 5 core distribution, that should be quite interesting. At the same time, writing a good Docker file for Perl apps. So I think anyone who's had an adventure in Docker files knows that there's many ways to write a Docker file, and the way that looks terrible is probably the right way. So that's that may be worth checking out. Either way, you can go back on YouTube and check it out afterwards. Next up, what you can do with YAML in 2020. Interesting question. Everything, I would say, but let's see what Tina Mueller has to say about that. That would be my pick for that schedule. There's a TPF panel at 1 p.m., well, according to my schedule, with bunch of people. They look like all board members, just quickly. Also, probably worth checking out no matter what way you get at it. And then, as you say, there's some talks from Sawyer, some Raku talks. There's a talk on setting up your own DocPan, which for the people unfamiliar with the linguity, is setting up your own private copy of CPAN with your own preferences and your own modules and whatever. Curtis is talking about his proposal for core, which I don't want to weigh into, but I sort of not sure that it's the right direction, but it's a good effort nonetheless. I would definitely tell people take a look at the Mark Fowler talk and Olaf Alders, who's got a talk called Getting Started with GitHub Actions. I think that's a good talk to look at, especially because CI, I think, is continuous integration. That is something that people, if they're not looking at, should be looking to get set up basically as soon as humanly possible. I think you'll get a lot out of that if you haven't set up your CI, or even if you have. And then I guess for the day, I'd probably pick It's the Little Things, How I Improved My Command Line and Editor Experiences This Year from Chris Wright. And he's apparently going to talk about what he's done on the command line and in Vim to make his life easier. So as I've posted threads before, I'm always keen to hear something new for Vim. I don't claim to be anything more than the most basic Vim user on the planet, but it's always good to find new settings or new something to add. And yeah, as Will pointed out, in the evening there's a bad movie night in the cloud. So I probably won't be on that because I do have a family and other things to do, but I'll definitely be checking out a bunch of those talks. And if you do miss them, they're all on YouTube, so you can come back and look at them. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to on the schedule for tomorrow. They're all on YouTube, they're on live on YouTube, or if you've paid up, you can, it's like $10, you can get on the Slack channel and you can interact with the speaker a little bit and talk with other people as well. So that's my pick for tomorrow, guys.
Cool. If anyone wants to see, I've gone through and filled out my schedule for all 3 days. So that's on the official website. You should be able to see which talks I will be attending. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our special edition of Perl Town Hall of the Perl Conference in the Cloud, Day 1. So thank you again to Tommy and Dean for joining us as our special co-host, and we will be back again with something tomorrow. We'll let everyone know. Thank you all. Stay safe, and good night. And cut.